So slower moving energies, like the dense, heavy energies we were just talking about, fear, worry, doubt, anxiety, they move so slow and they start to metastasize anger, resentment, judgment, blame, and they form this disease because they stick onto each other and they stick on in the body and they hang on because they don't let go because they're so stuck. They're stuck. That's when we're stuck, right? When we say I'm stuck, or I'm not clear, or I don't know what to do, or all those challenges we go through. But when you're clearing them out, the faster moving vibrations, they move so fast nothing can catch on, but they feel like really good. They're like the energy of like joy and happiness and peace and harmony and love and kindness and compassion. And those things become easier and easier. And I know I'm around a lot of people a lot of times who are like, how come you have so much energy? How do you have so much energy? And sometimes I hear people's thoughts like, is she really that happy? I think that's so funny. I'll hear it. Is she real? Is she for real? Is that authentic? And it's like, yeah, you too can clear out all that dense baggage and be done for it forever and see how happy you can get. So not to say that it's not, I don't have my days. I have my days like we all do. So, okay. So this is part of the whole activating and awakening of the DNA. Now, the other thing to understand is, and I made reference to this before, is we know that part of this shift of consciousness and this movement of the energy body of becoming enlightened and awakened involves moving from what we've been living in a three-dimensional reality. And we're shifting to what we know is a five-dimensional reality. And there's a lot of discrepancy of, are we there yet? Has it happened yet? We're already there. We're not there yet. Oh, when it happens, the Earth's going to be covered in water and all this crazy, kooky stuff. And nobody really knows. And here's what I want to say about this. First of all, 3 dimensions. Do you guys know what the three-dimensional reality is? It is the one we're living in. But three-dimensional reality is made up of 3 things. Number 1, light. Light exists in our reality. Number 2, sound. Sound exists in our reality. And number 3, depth, width, and height. That is a dimension of its own. Space, we would call it. Right? That's a dimension. And in the three-dimensional reality, that's what's real. In three-dimensional reality, you do not have psychics. You do not have energy healers. You do not have intuitives, because those people are working with a higher dimension. We call it higher, just for relative speaking, but it's not really higher. It's another dimension of reality that they've called in. A faster moving, faster vibrating dimension where new things are possible, right? Where psychics are real, where intuitives are real, where healers are real, where angels are real. By the way, science, I always say this, science calls angels electromagnetic particles of light with innate intelligence. They don't acknowledge them as angels, but they acknowledge their existence. I think that's so funny. Okay, so just like you say potato, I say potato, right? Okay, so this energy of the 4th dimension is what we talk about when we're connecting to the quantum field, where we can tap into source, creator, the divine intelligence, or the quantum field if you're a scientist. We can access this new information as a psychic, as someone who practices telepathy, as someone who learns how to bend spoons or practice all these kinds of alternative metaphysical types of things. Now, if you don't buy into it, if you're a skeptic, it's only because you're hanging out in your left brain all the time, and you're not balanced with your right brain, because the right brain knows what the left brain's trying to figure out. The left brain is trying to figure out what the right brain is already experiencing. And so when we get into the 4th dimension of reality, it's because we've already opened and expanded our right brain awareness, our intuitive abilities, and our connection to source. And we recognize that there's a God in me and there's a God in you. And this is where the whole concept of namaste comes from, right? The God in me recognizes the God in you. We're all connected. We understand that we're connected. But you're you and I'm me. That's 4th dimension. Now, 5th dimension is where we're moving. And we're already there. We are already there. In fact, all dimensions exist all at once, but I'll explain that in a minute. 5th dimension comes from the understanding that there is no one else out there. That we're in fact all one. That in fact, whether you're a scientist studying quantum physics or whether you're a spiritualist, and it doesn't matter if it's a religion or what, it's the concept of the 5th dimension, they both agree that all there is God, or all there is the quantum field, that there is no separation, that everyone out here, that everyone watching this video, this film, and everyone who's in this room right now, you guys are all projections of my experience, and that I'm just a projection of yours. and that you're God and I'm God too, and that the whole thing's a hallucination. And if you're a Star Trek fan, a great way to understand this is, do you guys know? The holodeck. The holodeck in Star Trek. If you don't understand this concept of a hologram, that you actually exist in a hologram, and quantum physics is telling us this is true, go watch that. The idea of a holodeck is that it's all an illusion, and that's what spiritualists call it. It's God's dream, we're God's dream, and all of this is a hallucination. And the way scientists explain it is that we're in a holographic experience that's not really physical at all, that there is no physicality to it, and that it supersedes the laws of the physical world, Newton's laws of science. Newton's laws of science based on carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen are no longer not really real. They're superseded in the fifth dimension by the law of one. And one of the things I teach about a lot is the universal laws. Because once we get in alignment with these universal laws, we understand there is no fear. There's nothing to fear. All we have to do is follow the laws, the universal laws, which physics agrees with, and so does spirituality. They are both in agreement. They just might say it a little differently, sort of like the angels and the electromagnetic particles of light. But they're still saying the same thing. So they're still saying the same thing. So the idea here is when we move into fifth dimension, we recognize that the universal laws, which are really important, apply. That you cannot do something to someone else that is not going to affect you personally, because you're all that is. So the moment you start sending out any kind of energy to someone else outside of you, you're going to suffer. If it's not good energy, good, desirable, that's our judgment. So in other words, let's say I'm sending you hatred and anger. Not only are you going to feel it, you're going to hate me back, because you're going to feel it unless you know how to transform energy. And then I'm going to feel it. But even if you're not there from the law of one, where there's all oneness, I can't send it out to you because you're not really even there. I'm only giving it to myself. You're just a projection of me. Does this make sense? It's pretty radical. So the idea is we start to go, whoa, I don't want any more hatred in my life. I don't want any more hatred in my world, or whatever, substitute the word hatred with anything. Judgment, pain, sorrow, suffering, grief, it doesn't matter. We just decide, I don't want that anymore. I've had enough of that. I'm going to align with the law of one. I'm going to align with Source Creator God, which is love. That's all there is. I'm moving into fifth dimensional reality. And now from this point forward, all I'm going to choose to send out with my conscious free will, with my thoughts, with my emotions, with my beliefs, with my ideas, is stuff that I want back. Love, peace, kindness, harmony, abundance, prosperity, all those things. And you get in alignment with that energy because you're now clearing out your baggage on a regular and consistent basis, knowing that that's not what you're choosing anymore. And the idea of fifth dimension really is simply this. It's about giving up our free will and aligning our free will with the will of God, which is love. That's all it is. And so it's here right now. Of course it's here right now because we have the choice right here, right now. And we have not only the choice about it, but we have the consciousness. We're awake. If you're listening to this and it's resonating with you on some level, in some way, then you're knowing it's true. And you know your body knows if it's true because your body's always going to get lighter. It's going to be like, yeah, this sounds real. Wow, this makes sense to me. That's your body saying yes. If your body's going, this lady's crazy, she's nuts, this is loony, oh, I don't believe, oh, this makes me afraid, oh, this is scary. If that's happening, that's just fear energy because that's part of the illusion of three-dimensional reality. It's resistance, right? I get resistance all the time from my family members. When I bring this stuff up, I've learned to release and let go, not attach, right? Let it go. But, the resistance is just the left brain not allowing the truth to come in, because the truth, when the right brain gets an allowance with this, it goes, yeah. Your body knows. Okay. Do you guys have any questions at all? I know some of you came in a little bit late, so, okay. Okay, so that's 5D, and that's really a fifth dimension. That's really what we're moving into and what's already here. Now, how else do we know what's already here? I do want to say this about the dimensions. What we know from quantum physics is that all dimensions of reality exist right now. We know there's no past, present, or future. We know that linear time, in other words, yesterday and tomorrow and today, is something that we created. We created it with calendars, clocks, watches, etc., business appointments, date books, and that's just how we sort of navigate through, because it's a marking pole that we can all agree on. We can be like, oh, I'll meet you here at this day at this time. And so we can harness how to connect in our separation. But in truth, if you lift the concept of watches, time, if you stop thinking about yesterday and you align with this truth, which is that there's only ever right now. Right now. And even though, like even right now, you're sort of seeing this in linear time, like she holds up this finger, she holds up this finger, she holds up this finger. Like those are all like happening sequentially. It's only because that's the way the brain categorizes the information. But in fact, it's always happening right now. Everything is always right now. So to come back to the dimensions, everything's happening right now. This is really challenging to kind of grapple around, but fifth dimension has always been here. It's just that our consciousness, our vibration on planet Earth in the 3D reality was too low, too dense to even connect with it. It's sort of like the radio station. You guys have heard that before, right? You know, over here on FM dial 101 is like cool jazz, and over here is like funky punky, and over here on this part of the dial is Rush Limbaugh, right? And so, by the way, there's a reason Rush Limbaugh can't, he's losing his hearing, right? If you don't use it, you lose it. It's like Dick Cheney with the heart. If you don't use it, you lose it. So anyway, sorry, digress. The point is that all these frequencies are here right now, just like you could tune into any channel on the television or any channel on your radio. They're all here. It's just that we didn't always know they were here. What happened? But we used to have only AM, but then somehow FM came in. We used to have only 3 channels of TV. And now we have like gazillions of programming for the brain, programming us on how to think and what to think and how to behave. And they were always here. We just didn't always have them. We didn't fill them up with information. We used to only have a little bit of bandwidth on the internet. But it wasn't like we magically, it was always here. We just harnessed it because we became conscious that we could. And it's the same thing with 3D, 5D, and every other dimension. It's here right now. It's just that most people don't know how to access it. And the only way to access it is to lighten up, to get enlightened, really. So what else is in those dimensions? Let's talk about that a little bit. And let me check my time here. Okay, good. So what else is in those dimensions? What if in some dimension of reality, and I want to say this because just recently, my dog, Dakota, who I love so much, was really, I was at, with her, I literally was calling the veterinarian for home euthanasia. I thought it was like the end. And I was in my frantic, and I called a friend of mine who's a fellow animal communicator, and you know, when you're like a little nervous and frantic about this kind of stuff, I needed a third-party neutral person. And we really realized that this was a healing crisis for me and for her. And we did some energy. And what I did was I did this dimensional work and stepped into a new dimension of reality where my dog was fully and completely healed. Now, I know that's not something we learn overnight. I've been doing this for a long time now, very dedicated. But that's a potential, and it's real. My dog is now, it's like unbelievable. I mean, you just would never know. So, and this is just something we can kind of relate to. I don't even know what other possibilities are. This is just what we're awake to now. Now, I can say I am not a person with all 12 strands of DNA activated, obviously. I do manifestation and healing circles on a monthly basis with my clients privately, and also by teleseminar with groups. And we activate our dormant DNA and RNA. I'll tell you a little bit about how I was trained about in that in a second. But what I know is that I have enough of my dormant DNA activated now. It's the average person we know is somewhere around 2. If they're working in this metaphysical world and they're doing this kind of energy work, this kind of alchemy, activating their DNA, they have more. Usually what we think when we ask the quantum field of intelligence or source creator and other light beings, what they indicate is that maybe as much as 3.5 to 4% of lightworker DNA is activated now. So I don't have all my DNA activated. I know as far as I know, there's nobody on the planet who does that I'm aware of. But I have enough activated to know that these things are real. And so what I'm saying is as more gets activated, and we do a little at a time, right? Because we can't do it all at once. It'd be like sticking your finger in a socket. You'd be like, you know, you'd get fried, right? Your system couldn't handle it. But what I do know is that as we activate more, we'll be discovering more, like the solutions to our world's problems. Not just like, oh, I discovered this new, I created this new thing, that catches all garbage and transforms it. It's going to be like energy transformation, alchemy of cleaning the air, alchemy of cleaning the water, alchemy of cleaning and transforming all the pollution, alchemy of changing the oil, alchemy of using free energy, if you know what that is, based on Nikola Tesla's studies and what he knew. So that stuff is in our DNA too. And that's what I was just saying, was that I have enough activated to know that this is real, and I know that everybody has it. Everybody has this. It's not a gift that's reserved for anybody. Now, here's the thing I want to say about this. It was something I said I was going to come back to, and I forgot what that was. What did I say I was going to come back to? Do you guys remember? Okay, that's all right. I'm talking really fast. The alchemy. Well, anyway, okay, so here's what I know, is that this DNA, in order for it to get activated, there is one thing that is needed before any of the other strands can get activated. Does anyone know what that is? Okay, so we know that our DNA stores all our genes, which are codons of information. And in order to activate anything beyond the first two strands of DNA, what needs to be activated first to get past those first two and into the other dormant ones is your compassion gene. Compassion. Why? Because this stuff is so powerful. If you don't know how to display compassion towards yourself, towards others, this kind of stuff won't even be accessible to you. It's like a built-in safety net by source. It's amazing, right? And so if we look at the world's situations right now, and the stuff that's been happening, where people are really being challenged because they're identifying with the pain of the experience, right? Their 3-dimensional human is going through a lot of pain. If you're aligned with love, it's not so painful for us to go through this transformation. We can still have a lot of happiness and joy but in any case, these challenges are serving humanity. Why? Because they're activating our compassion. They're activating our care and our love. And we need that before we can step into our light bodies. Make sense? Okay, let me say a little bit about this part, how we know this in terms of the body. Just checking my time again. Okay, good. So how we know this in terms of the body is this. We have certain parts of our body, and I teach this in my psychic development, intuitive development classes. I teach this in my Learn Animal Communication classes, which I teach. I teach this in the Manifestation and Healing workshops. I do a class called Animals and Energy and the Secret Energy of Animals, and I teach all about the universal laws and manifestation process to actualize, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. But we have certain parts of our bodies that we can explain this in the physical world. Because again, the left analytical brain, the skeptic brain, wants to know more. It really wants to know. Its job is to figure it out. So what we know here is that we have 5 brain waves. Do you guys know what they are? Anybody? Gamma, delta. You got them. So, okay, let me start with your beta brainwave. Hopefully right now, if you're listening and you're not asleep, you're awake and you're alert, you're in a beta brainwave. Beta brainwave is the doing brainwave. It's the skeptic brainwave. It's the brainwave that wants to figure and analyze and do and make lists and get you to work on time and, obey your, the enslavement of society and all that kind of stuff. Okay, I know I'm injecting stuff here. But the point is that's the beta brainwave. Now, the alpha brainwave is the balanced brainwave of the right brain. It's a very light, meditative, relaxed state. It's the chill state. You're watching a sunset, you're chilling out, alpha brainwave. You're vegging out in front of the TV, alpha brainwave. Now, the job of the alpha brainwave, I got to sidestep here with the other 5 before I go into the other 3 brainwaves. Does anyone know what the job of the alpha brainwave is? It's to say yes. That's the only job of the alpha brainwave. It's to balance out the overactive beta brainwave. And the way it does that is it goes, yes, all is well. That's all it does. So if you're watching TV, and what it does is it takes that truth into the system. And you're vegging out in front of the TV, and it starts telling you, you better be afraid of your neighbor next door who's raping people. You better be afraid. We need more guns. We need more governments. We need, there's all kinds of chaos on the streets. You need this pill. Do you have depression? Yes. Got to be careful about that TV. It's programming the brain. There's studies on this, so it knows. Did you have a question?
Well, I was going to make a comment. I finally understand why my 4-year-old, when we watch TV, he wants everything he sees on the commercial. Pizza, bounty, napkin. Can you buy that? Can you buy this? I used to
Yeah.
be skeptical to this because they're always in the alpha brain.
That's right, because the alpha brainwave always says yes, and the commercials are incredibly suggestive. And they show you pretty pictures of people having good time, and then they tell you you need some kind of drug. And they know what they're doing. There's studies. So it's really important to take back with our brain power, right? That's part of just becoming conscious. Take back your brain power. Okay, so that's the alpha brainwave. Now, the next one, delta. Delta is sleep time, sleep and dreams. And then there's a gamma brainwave, which most humans never learn how to access. I teach that in my advanced psychic intuitive development class. The gamma brainwave is extremely high level learning. It's really where you could basically put a table in the middle of the room and flip it. Or you could take a spoon and bend it with using a gamma brainwave. If you ever saw the movie Men Who Stare at Goats, did anyone ever see that movie? There's a scene in there where George Clooney, the character, uses his brain to kill a goat. That is based on real scientific tests by the US government. It's true. In the beginning of that movie, by the way, he makes some kind of statement about that. The evidence in this is more true than you realize. He said, make some kind of intro about that. Well, that's a gamma brainwave. And it's incredibly powerful. And it's really only supposed to be used. Okay, that's another story. So, okay, gamma brainwave. And then we have my favorite brainwave, if there is the theta brainwave. And theta brainwave is the brainwave that allows for telepathy. It's very easy to access. I teach people all the time how to access it. The theta brainwave also allows us to connect to the quantum field of intelligence. It's how authentic psychics, it's one way authentic psychics are connecting with angels, light beings, unseens, non-physical, people who have crossed over, animals who have crossed over, the quantum field, God, the divine source. That's what the theta brainwave does. The other thing the theta brainwave does is it programs the body. And it teaches things on the unconscious plane. So what you're unconscious of, the theta brainwave knows. Does anyone ever try affirmations? Did you ever try affirmations? How do you like affirmations? Yeah, they don't really work. You want to know why? Because, why? Well, that's true. But the real thing about affirmations is, let's say let's take an easy one that's popular on the planet right now. People are having issues with money. A lot of people, if they've been programmed by the TV, they think there's a debt, they think there's lack, scarcity, not enough. They believe that. It's not really true. But the point is that if your brain is telling you, I don't have enough, I'm poor, I'm broke, I'm lack, and then you start saying affirmations, I'm abundant, I'm prosperous. But your theta brainwave is now programmed through your alpha brainwave. Your theta has taken it on into your unconscious to believe in scarcity and lack. No beta brainwave, which would say, I'm abundant, I'm prosperous, that's the beta brainwave, can override a theta. Theta is more powerful. So if the theta, which is unconscious, until we learn how to access it in our consciousness, if the theta's got stuff stored in there, in this case, lack, limitation, poverty, no beta brainwave of affirmation can override it. That's why alchemy is about going into theta brainwave, transforming the energy, and changing the reality from within. Then the outward reality, remember where I started at this whole presentation, which some of you didn't get to hear, but the outer reality reflects the inner reality. When we go to the theta brainwave, change the reality there on the unconscious plane, then the outer reality changes. That's why affirmations don't really work, and that's why transformation of energy and alchemy does, and healing does, because we access a theta brainwave, which controls the unconscious mind. And the one thing I didn't say that it also does is it gives directions to the rest of the body. So your theta brainwave is telling your heart to beat. It's telling your circulatory system to circulate. It's telling your eyes if you need glasses. It's telling your liver if it's got a tumor. It's telling all the cells, all the protons, all the neutrons, all the electrons in your body what to do, think, how to behave. It's the dictator of the brain, So again, when we do healing work using a theta brainwave, which you're not going to get through the beta, which is the analyzing brainwave, is part of how this energy healing works. The alchemy of energy for healing. Okay. Makes sense to everybody with the 5 brainwaves? Now, beyond that, we know we have 10% of the average human brain is conscious. 90% of the average human brain is unconscious. When we start doing this work, we clear out the unconscious, we become more conscious. We're accessing and using more of our brain. Part of the way, by the way, the DNA is going to be changing our bodies. We talked about moving from carbon-based to crystalline-based. Our brains are going to be growing. We're going to evolve into a larger brain species. More frontal, which is the brain that feels joy and happiness, right? Less of the rear, which is the reptilian brain. I won't even go into that whole story, how that reptilian brain was formed. But the point is we're going to have bigger brains. We're also going to have bigger hearts. Why? Because we're now starting to make the mind to heart connection. We're going to be using that compassion. We're going to be using our love, our care. That's the heart center, and that's what you were talking about before. Tapping into the feelings and the emotions. We're all becoming more heart-centered beings. So as we wake up this dormant DNA, our hearts are going to grow. And I happen to believe over evolution, I feel like this was directly downloaded to me. I guess you could call it a prediction, but I don't know that there's any scientific evidence of it yet, that our hearts will eventually be 5-chambered hearts. I don't know how long that will take. I have no idea. I just believe that's the evolution of our physical bodies. So now, beyond that, let me just go on a little more about these physical parts of our body for the left analytical brain, which is what we were doing there. We know that our heart center has a thymus sensory gland. This sensory gland senses and perceives information. So if you call yourself empathic, does anyone call themselves empathic here? Okay, I'm an empath. I'm a quadruple Cancer. That's all about feeling, sensing, love. I love you. What's your birthday?
November 20th.
Okay, you are. You're a Scorpio. Feeling, sensing, totally got that. So when we sense that, that's coming through the thymus energy center, the endocrine glands, and the heart center. We're sensing information. And beyond that, our skin is a sensory gland. It's the largest gland of the body. It's an organ. And it senses information. Do you ever get goosebumps? Yeah, what is that? That is information coming in through the environment, and the skin's going, pay attention. This is significant. I got them right now. That's pretty funny. So, that is our skin talking to us, our body giving us sensory information. But most people who are only in 10% of their consciousness, they're not paying attention to it. It's not that they don't get it. It's that they're not conscious of it. Same thing with the sensory gland in the heart center, the endocrine glands. Now, we also have endocrine glands in the center of our brain. Does anyone know what those are? Pineal pituitary gland. What do psychics call it? The third eye. The third eye in the center of the brain. Science just recognizes them as the master glands. They're the master glands. They sense and perceive information. In fact, your eyes don't see, your ears don't hear. Those are just filters for light through the eyes and filters for sound vibration to come in and vibrate through the ear canal and register it in the center of the brain, pineal pituitary. Now, the thing is, of course, the pineal pituitary glands are shut down. Why are they shut down? Does anyone know? You guys didn't know you were going to be put on the hot seat. Do you want to say?
Maybe the netting over the earth?
Yes, definitely all the electromagnetic frequency, all of the technology. If you're familiar with the world of Atlantis, they went down because technology superseded humans. We're at that brink right now, but that's not what's going to happen this time around.
There's lots of things that are impacting, I think.
Yes, there are lots of things. Yes, HARP is one of those things you're referring to, right? Yes, for sure. But the other main thing that shuts down pineal pituitary